Okay, so let's be honest.
Mm.
Dealing with software testing documentation
Right.
can sometimes feel like you're trying to untangle
Yeah.
a giant knot of Christmas lights.
Mm-hmm.
There's a system in there somewhere,
Yeah.
but getting everything connected and working properly
Absolutely.
can be a real headache.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's a tool
Okay.
that can help make sure every single piece of your software is tested
Uh-huh.
and working exactly as intended?
Oh, that's great.
It's called the Requirements Traceability Matrix, or RTM.
Okay.
And today we're diving deep into this powerful tool.
It's like having a master blueprint
Yeah.
that ensures every feature, every function,
Right.
every little detail of your software is tested thoroughly.
Exactly. Imagine a detective's board,
Yeah.
but instead of tracking clues to catch a criminal,
Oh, okay.
you're connecting user requirements
I see.
to
Well, there you
specific
go.
test cases
Right.
to make absolutely sure nothing slips through the cracks.
That's a great analogy.
Oh, thanks.
The RTM is a living document
Right.
that keeps track of these connections throughout the entire software development process. From initial planning to final release,
Right.
it helps everyone involved stay on the same page
Yeah.
and ensures a smooth, efficient, and ultimately successful project.
So let's break it down.
Sure.
What exactly a shagger is an RTM?
Okay.
I mean, besides a lifesaver for anyone who's ever dealt with the frustration of buggy software.
Well, in simple terms, an
Yeah.
RTM is a document,
Okay.
often a spreadsheet,
Okay.
that maps and traces user requirements with test cases.
Right.
It's a way of ensuring that for every feature a user wants, there's a test to prove it works correctly.
So it's kind of like a checklist on steroids.
Exactly.
Good.
It's a structured way to guarantee 100% test coverage.
Wow.
This means that no requirement,
Right.
no matter how small or seemingly insignificant,
Right.
is left untested.
Okay, so I'm starting to see why this is so important.
Uh-huh.
But can you give me a real-world example of how this plays out?
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
why should I, the listener, care about this?
Let's take a simple example.
Okay.
A banking website.
Okay.
One of the most basic requirements is that users should be able to log in securely.
Yeah.
Now, this might seem straightforward,
Right.
but think about all the things that need to happen behind the scenes to make that work.
You've got to verify the username and password against a database.
Right.
Make sure the system handles incorrect login attempts.
Uh-huh.
Implement password recovery options,
Yeah.
and so much more.
It's a lot more complicated than it looks on the surface.
Yeah, it is
Uh,
so much more complicated.
And each of these individual functions needs to be tested thoroughly
Okay.
to make sure it behaves exactly as intended.
Right.
That's where the RTM comes in.
Okay.
It helps break down this complex process
Right.
into smaller, more manageable chunks,
Uh,
ensuring that nothing falls through the cracks.
Okay, so
Uh-huh.
if we were building this banking website
Right.
and using the Guru 99 banking project scenario
Okay.
from our source material,
Yeah.
how would we actually use an RTM
Okay.
to manage all of this?
We'd start by listing out all the user requirements for the login functionality.
Okay.
Then we'd identify all the technical requirements needed to meet those user needs,
Right.
like verifying credentials, handling password resets,
Yeah.
and so on.
Okay.
And finally, we'd create specific test cases to verify each of those technical requirements.
And the RTM would link all of these elements together
Exactly.
so we can see the big picture
Yeah.
and make sure everything is accounted for and tested properly.
It's like a puzzle,
Okay.
where each piece represents a different aspect of the development process.
Uh-huh.
The RTM helps us fit those pieces together
Okay.
in a logical and organized way.
Now, from our research,
Yeah.
I know there are actually different types of requirements traceability matrices, right? Can you break down the three main types, forward, backward, and bi-directional,
Okay.
so our listener can choose their own traceability adventure?
Absolutely.
All right.
Think of it like planning a trip.
Okay.
Forward traceability is like mapping out your route from start to finish,
Okay.
making sure you hit all the essential landmarks along the way.
So with forward traceability,
Yeah,
you're starting with the user requirements
you're right.
and making sure there are test cases to cover every single one.
Precisely.
Okay.
It ensures that every requirement is meticulously tested and nothing is overlooked.
Okay. So what about backward traceability? Is that like driving in reverse?
Not quite.
Okay.
Think of it as double-checking your itinerary
Okay.
to make sure every stop you've planned is actually necessary
Right.
and contributes to the overall goal of your trip.
So with backward traceability, we're
Yeah.
making sure that everything we're building
Yeah.
is actually needed.
Uh-huh.
and connected to a specific user requirement.
It helps prevent something called scope creep.
What is scope creep?
Where unnecessary features or functionalities get added to the project,
Gotcha.
wasting time and resources.
Right.
Backward traceability keeps everything focused and streamlined.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about bi-directional traceability?
Okay.
Is that like driving a car that can go forward and backward at the same time?
You could say that bi-directional traceability combines the best of both worlds.
Okay.
It links requirements to test cases and vice versa, providing a comprehensive and holistic view of the entire development process.
So it's like having a super detailed map.
Oh, exactly.
That shows you not only how to get to your destination,
right,
but also how to get back home.
Yeah.
And why you're going to each place in the first place.
Bi-directional traceability offers the most complete picture,
right,
and helps ensure that everything is aligned and interconnected throughout the project lifecycle.
Okay, this is all fascinating stuff, but let's get down to brass tacks.
Sure.
How does creating an RTM actually work in practice?
All right.
Can we dive into the Guru 99 banking project example and see this in action?
Absolutely. Let's take that user login example we were talking about.
Okay.
In the Guru 99 banking project.
Yeah.
They break this down step by step,
Okay.
showing us exactly how an RTM comes together.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Sure.
What was the first thing we put on our detectives board?
The very first column would be your high-level business requirements. Yeah. In this case, it's that users should be able to log in.
Right.
Sounds simple, right?
Yeah, it does.
But the Guru 99 example highlights how this one requirement actually translates into a bunch of different technical needs.
So that's where things start to get interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of technical requirements are we talking about?
Well, the system needs to be able to authenticate user credentials against a database.
Okay.
That means comparing the username and password entered by the user with what's stored securely on the server.
Right. And it also needs to handle things like, what happens if someone enters the wrong password too many times?
Exactly.
We wouldn't want them to get locked out of their account permanently.
So you'd have another technical requirement for implementing account lockout policies.
Right.
Maybe after 3 or 5 failed login attempts.
Okay, and then there's the whole password recovery process.
Exactly.
What happens if a user forgets their password?
Right.
They'll need a way to reset it.
And that brings up another set of technical requirements.
Okay.
The system needs to be able to send a password reset email.
Right.
Verify the user's identity through security questions or other methods, and allow them to create a new password.
So you can see how what seemed like a simple user login requirement actually branches out into this whole web of interconnected technical details.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, wow.
As you dig deeper,
you'll
find even more granular technical requirements related to things like session management, security protocols, error handling, and more.
Okay, so we've got our business requirements and our technical requirements laid out.
Right.
What's the next step in building our RTM?
Now we get to the heart of testing.
Okay.
Creating test cases.
Right.
Each technical requirement needs to be thoroughly tested to ensure it's working correctly.
So, for instance, we'd need a test case to verify that the system correctly authenticates a user who enters the right username and password.
Exactly.
And then another test case for what happens when someone enters the wrong password.
Precisely.
Okay.
The Guru 99 example walks us through a sample test case for that exact scenario, entering the correct ID and password.
Right.
They show how you document the steps involved, the expected outcome, and the actual result of the test.
And this is where our detectives board starts to take shape.
Exactly.
We can draw lines connecting the user login business requirement to the technical requirements for authentication and account lockout.
Right.
And then connect those to the specific test cases that verify each function.
The RTM creates this visual map of traceability, making it easy to see how every requirement is covered by one or more test cases. It's like having a checklist that guarantees every aspect of the login process is tested thoroughly.
Okay, so what if we discover a bug during testing?
Yeah.
How does the RTM help us manage that?
That's where the status column comes in.
Yeah.
You can track the status of each test case, whether it passed, failed, or is still pending.
Gotcha.
If a test case fails, you can use the RTM to trace it back to the related technical requirement and pinpoint the source of the problem.
So it helps you zero in on the root cause of the bug.
Exactly.
Instead of just treating the symptoms.
Right.
That's super helpful.
Yeah.
And I imagine this also comes in handy if a requirement changes during the development process. Like, let's say the client decides they want to add two-factor authentication to the login process.
Right.
That would definitely add a whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah.
But with an RTM, we could easily see which existing test cases would need to be modified.
Right.
And what new test cases would need to be created to cover the new functionality.
Exactly.
So the RTM helps you assess the impact of changes and adapt your testing strategy accordingly.
Right.
It ensures that even with evolving requirements, everything stays connected and nothing falls through the cracks.
It does.
Now, this Guru 99 example is great for illustrating the basics.
Yeah.
But I imagine real-world RTMs can get pretty complex.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially for large-scale projects with hundreds or even thousands of requirements.
But the underlying principles remain the same.
Right.
It's all about establishing clear connections between requirements and test cases.
Okay.
And thankfully, there are tools and templates available that can help manage this complexity.
So you don't necessarily have to build these elaborate spreadsheets manually.
Not at all.
Okay.
There are software applications specifically designed for creating and managing RTMs.
Oh, cool.
They offer features like automated traceability, version control, and reporting tools, making it much easier to handle large and complex projects.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
But even with these tools, I imagine creating and maintaining an RTM still requires a significant investment of time and effort.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's an investment that pays off in the long run.
Right.
Remember, the RTM is about ensuring quality and reducing risk.
Right. It helps you catch bugs early on, prevent costly rework later, and ultimately deliver a product that meets user needs and expectations.
And it's not just about avoiding problems.
Right.
The RTM also helps you improve communication and collaboration within the development team.
Yeah. How so?
Everyone has access to the same information.
Okay.
Knows what needs to be done.
Right.
And can track progress easily.
So it's not just a testing tool.
Right.
It's a project management tool as well.
Precisely.
Okay.
It fosters a culture of transparency and accountability.
Okay.
Ensuring everyone is working towards the same goal.
Okay, so we've covered the different types of traceability.
Yeah.
Walked through an example of how to build an RTM. And talked about the tools and benefits.
Right.
Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture. We've been talking about RTMs in the context of software development.
Right.
But the concept of traceability has much broader applications. Think about it.
Yeah.
Any project where you're trying to achieve specific goals
Right.
can benefit from having a clear map,
Yeah.
connecting those goals to the actions you're taking
I see.
and the outcomes you're aiming for.
It's about creating a chain of evidence, showing how each step contributes to the overall objective.
Right.
You can apply this in project management, engineering, even creative fields like writing a book or making a film.
That's so true. Imagine writing a novel, for example.
Okay.
You might have a high-level outline of the plot, then break that down into chapters, scenes, and individual character arcs.
Right.
An RTM-like approach could help you ensure that each scene, each piece of dialogue serves a purpose.
Right.
And contributes to the overall narrative.
Exactly. Or think about building a house.
Okay.
You have the architectural blueprints, then detailed plans for the electrical plumbing and HVAC systems.
Okay.
A traceability matrix could help you track how each component fits into the overall design and ensure that everything is properly integrated.
Wow. I'm starting to see how powerful this concept is.
Yeah.
It's not just about checking boxes.
It's about creating a system that helps you think through every aspect of a project, identify potential risks, and ensure that everything is aligned with your goals. And it's about fostering a culture of accountability. When everyone understands how their work contributes to the bigger picture, they're more likely to take ownership and strive for excellence.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Requirements Traceability Matrix, we want to leave you with this. How can you apply the principles of traceability to your own work or projects, even if you're not in software development?
Think about the projects you're currently working on.
Okay.
Do you have a clear system for tracking your progress, identifying dependencies, and ensuring that every task is connected to a specific goal?
Could creating a simple traceability matrix, even if it's just a basic spreadsheet, help you gain a better understanding of your workflow, improve your efficiency, and ultimately achieve better results.
It's something to consider.
Yeah.
Remember, the key is to create a system that works for you, something that helps you stay organized, focused, and on track to achieve your goals.
So until next time, keep diving deep. And remember, even the most complex projects can be broken down into manageable pieces. It's all about connecting the dots.
Right.
And making sure nothing slips through the cracks.